Oh my gosh, it's Friday and we have potential Illinois cannabis news. How exciting. Folks, it's time for another episode of
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memo is what allows this whole thing to go on.
I mean, you have to respect the memo.
Hey, this is Tommy Chong, and you're listening and watching The Cole Memo.
All right, once again, folks, happy Friday, and I'm so excited to share the potential. I will say that probably a few times throughout the show, the potential of some Illinois cannabis policy developments. To do that, I'm going to be joined by Peter Contos from the Cannabis Equity Illinois Coalition. You can find them at cannabisequityil.org. I'm displaying their website right now. Peter, before we get into it, do you want to just give a little bit of a background as to who you are and what you all do at the Cannabis Equity Illinois Coalition?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Cole. The Coalition, we started as an organization around 6 years ago when it was becoming very clear that the legalization of adult use cannabis was coming to Illinois. And so we are a grassroots organization working to hold the state accountable to the promises they made around repairing the harms from the war on drugs, about reinvesting in impacted communities, about ending mass incarceration, and ultimately trying to create a cannabis industry that prioritizes community wellness over corporate profits. And so we spend a lot of time in Springfield trying to advocate for new cannabis policies. We offer a variety of direct reentry services for people coming home from prison, as well as do a lot of education services, so people understand, how to carry cannabis, how to, where they can safely use cannabis, and just the ways they can try and keep themselves safe.
Yeah, you do a lot of great work at the coalition, including helping people expunge their records, because unfortunately that's not automatic in Illinois, and so much more. We could go on and on, but what I will just say before we segue into what we're talking about today is I want to give another plug for cannabisequityil.org, because if you like watching the show, that means you like keeping in the loop for cannabis policy developments. And I would say if you go to cannabisequityil.org, they've got a tab here that says get involved. And I would recommend throwing your support their way. There's also a little donate button here, because it's not free to do this work. You got to go down to Springfield, and again, travel's not free, food's not free, all that stuff. So if you can pitch them some money, also you can get involved and stay in the loop. And I think that all of those things, if you tune into the show regularly, probably should be high on your list. If you can't support them, that's okay, but you might get involved and support them in other ways. So just wanted to thank you for all the work you, Doug, and others do at the coalition, Peter. So with that said, I heard from you, I heard from a few others this morning that there are some potential cannabis policy developments today. Do you want to break that down, what you're hearing on the ground?
Yeah, so today's update is specific to the Cannabis Equity Omnibus Bill, which for folks who have been tuned into the coalition, into the Cole Memo for a few years, you will have heard us talk about this for some years now. Last session, this was filed under House Bill 2911, and it did not ultimately receive a final vote in the House, so it did not pass. The state legislature has repackaged a lot of the items that were in the bill from last year, and is actively working on passing those as we speak. The bill, which is Senate Bill 90, that's 90, that bill passed through the House Executive Committee first thing this morning, Friday, May 30th. And we expect it to go to the House floor sometime later today before it goes over to the Senate. We were not expecting any movement, frankly, on the cannabis items at all. So it was definitely a bit of a surprise to hear this morning. There was always rumblings in Springfield, but never anything definitive. And so we definitely, we saw this first thing this morning, and, we've been posted on social media, obviously talking to people like Cole, trying to spread the word about what's going on and making sure people understand that we might have some movement here.
Yeah, let's give people the headline, and then we'll talk about what might be included in this. If you're supportive of the cannabis omnibus and some of the language, as Peter said, we've discussed it over the years. We've not seen it get past the finish line. But if you are aware of some of the concepts that are covered in it and you're supportive of it, Peter, would you say the best thing people should do right now is reach out to their elected representatives and let them know that they support Senate Bill 90 and specifically those cannabis related provisions. Is that a good course of action?
Correct. And especially where the bill, right now it is in the House. So really, trying to lean in on members of the Illinois House would be a great place to start. And that, but obviously we will need a vote in the Senate. So please, while you're making that call to the House, you might as well make the call to your senator. And if you have any questions or issues or, want help trying to figure out who your people are, you can always reach out to the coalition, send us a DM on social media. You can send us an email, info@cannabisequityil.org, and we'll make sure you get what you need.
Perfect. And I'll just do a little bit of knowledge sharing. I always like to take the opportunity on the show. Folks, if you go to ilga.gov, today it looks like this. It might look different in the future, but just a little knowledge share. If you go to bills and resolutions, it's Senate Bill 90. So we're going to go for this range. We're going to scroll down to 90, which is the public funds online info. It's at least described as public funds online info. But if you look at the full text, House Amendment 1, and looks like that opened in a new tab, you'll be able to see some of the language. And so I guess just to start, I'm going to do a Control F. Can you run us through some of the things at least you've seen so far? I know this is super fresh, so maybe we can't go through everything, but I think I did at least see that the concept of allowing, right here, the concept of allowing medical cannabis patients to shop at any store seems to be included.
Yes. So, it is a 380-page bill that was only voted on this morning. So, it's definitely not something we can go kind of line by line on quite yet. But I would say in terms of kind of the major inclusions and the victories, I would say for our side of things, there's 4 things I want to call out. One is what you just spoke on, the medical patient expansion. So patients being able to go to every dispensary in the state and receive their tax discount. And on the flip side of that, obviously allowing the social equity businesses who've struggled to find customers, allowing them to actually sell to patients and offer that discount. So that's one. Number 2 is the craft grower expansion. So for years, the craft growers have sought to expand their canopy space from 5,000 to any number higher than 5,000. And the lawmakers have been very, very slow to react to that. They have included the expansion to 14,000 square feet of canopy space. So that's a win for the craft growers.
Yeah, and they even looks like they struck the kind of step up provision that they had in the law in the past, so that you could just potentially expand right to that 14,000. That's nice.
Absolutely, yeah. So hopefully things can get a little bit easier for the craft growers. Number 3 is excluded offenses. This is something the coalition has been working on since even before cannabis was legal. And this is these very, very arbitrary criminal offenses that the state of Illinois is saying, hey, if you have this misdemeanor for gambling, you can't participate in this industry. And so we're proud that they have included the removal of the excluded offenses rules, so that individuals who want to become a caregiver, want to become a worker in the industry, want to become an owner, principal officer, these rules will no longer apply to anybody. So hopefully make it a little bit easier for folks who do have criminal records to participate in this industry, participate and own a license. Again, this is not just for workers or people at the, at the bottom level. This is also for people, principal officers, executives. Again, we want everybody to have a fair shot at this industry.
Yeah, and the headline on this, at least for me, is, in case people don't know, if you were charged with violating the Cannabis Control Act, which has been the law of the land, I mean, it still kind of is, to be completely honest, but it's been the law of the land since 1978, and it's just crazy. I guess what I'm wanting you to take home, listeners, is that if you violated a cannabis offense, that could preclude you from participating in the industry, which I think we can all agree is strange. I'll just put it politely. Just my quick thoughts on that. Peter, did you have other takeaways from this?
Yeah, I would say the last major thing that I want to name that was in the bill is and this is something that is brand new, is a hardship exemption. So this is not something that's come up in previous negotiations. Well, it's been discussed, but it was never actually considered until now, which is essentially, and this is where it's problematic, is it only applies to craft growers and to infusers or processors. It does not include dispensaries. So I do have some questions about that. But specifically, this would allow people who've experienced hardships, so craft growers, infusers who have not gotten their doors open, have had issues at the local level with zoning or approvals. There's a million things going on to why people deserve a hardship exemption. And so this is just, I think a very common sense solution to saying, hey, most of these businesses don't have their doors open. Most of them are not operational. Why are we still paying license fees and renewal fees for a business that, let alone profitable, is not operational? And so hopefully we can get that, over the line and make sure that, again, we're not having people trying to pay fees that, again, they're not even in business.
Right. Just paying license fees to the state for a license they're not even using yet, right? Seems especially in the context of social equity, that seems like the least we could do. As
the very, very least, yeah. So we are excited that I got included. Again, that was not something that really came up in previous conversations. So we are glad that lawmakers were flexible and want to try and meet the needs of some of these business owners. Again, I do have some questions about why that was not applied to dispensaries, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, cool. Well, we'll wrap up. I think I just have 2 other questions for you. One thing that stood out to me, which again, if you're not sure, again, 300 or so, 300 plus page bill just came across our desk earlier this morning, so we've not had time to read it. Hope the legislators have, with everything else they're balancing, but that's a conversation for another day. I noticed that this was struck out. I thought that was kind of interesting, and at least from my perspective, that could mean that maybe we see drive-through windows in the future. I'm not sure if you can see the text I'm displaying here. I lost it. Oh yeah, and actually, it says I didn't realize this other language was here. This is new language. That's why it's underlined. Notwithstanding any other provisions of a law, a dispensing organization may offer pickup or drive-through locations for purchasers over 21 years of age and qualifying patients. So that's an interesting one.
Yeah, this is definitely another win, and something we've been asking for some years. Some of these rules, some of this language has been included in some rules in the past, but it would be really nice to just get this legislated
Right.
and done for, so that we can finally move on, and businesses can have a little bit more flexibility. Because one of the things that is included in this larger bill is, again, hey, if all these dispensaries are now going to serve medical patients, there has to be some rules in place that ensures medical patients are prioritized. And so things like that, like the pickup areas and drive-through, that's going to be some serious work for businesses to develop that prioritization plan, so that medical patients have everything they need and they can access their medicine safely.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for joining me today. We'll wrap here. I just want to close by asking you, okay, so we can see the actions that you described this morning. What are the next steps? I mean, it's got to pass the House, it's got to pass the Senate, it's got to go to the governor's desk. But am I correct to understand that's all got to happen by midnight tomorrow?
Technically, yes, it is. The session does end tomorrow at midnight. But I would just reinforce to listeners that Illinois lawmakers very rarely get their business done on time. And so I would expect an extension. The state budget is something that has not been agreed upon quite yet. And so we have some serious questions if that will be completed by tomorrow night. I'm not optimistic of that. And so, yes, it is technically a short timeline, but I would just kind of reinforce to folks that this is nothing new. Also, for folks who've been in the cannabis work for a while, you will know that none of this has ever been done on time. We have never abided to deadlines and stuff like that because it's such a complicated issue, or it's been made into such a complicated issue. And so, yeah, I would say look out for a lot more news over the next 36 hours. But yeah, we would expect some kind of extension to be made.
Sweet. And we'll wrap after this comment. Someone said, I'm all for the program being improved, but this last minute push that no one's had a chance to read doesn't seem like it. I will say I understand where you're coming from, but also I think it's not completely fair to call it a last minute push, because as Peter said, this exact language has cropped up many times, and also Representative Ford who seems to have filed these amendments, announced in some media appearances that we've been covering on the show in the last few episodes that this was coming. And in fact, he said he was going to roll it out this week. And so true to form, he did. And to Penny Hart's point, that's how they do everything in Springfield. I'm sure, Peter, you can relate to that. So with that, Peter, I don't know if you have any other thoughts before we part. Contact your representatives, as you said. That's, I think, most important if you're supportive of this language and these concepts. Once again, it's Senate Bill 90. Any other thoughts, Peter, before we go?
No, I think you covered everything. I would just ask if folks are interested in having a longer conversation. Our coalition hosts policy meetings every other Monday at 5:30. So we will meet this coming Monday, which is Monday, June 2nd. So we'll meet there at 5:30. Would love for everybody to join us then. We'll talk about all this in more details. I'm going to try and have like a much cleaner notes document that explains everything that's in the bill by that time. So again, if you want to learn more, if you want to get involved, join us on Monday, and I'll make sure, Cole, you have that link so that you can share that out. But yeah, you can always find things on the coalition social media.
Yeah. And I would say, I'll just second what you said. Make sure to show up for those meetings. I think maybe an easy way to do that, I'll have the link in the show notes, just like Peter said. But also, if you go to the cannabisequityil.org, there are buttons to get involved. And I think this join a meeting button might just get you where you need to be. Yep, exactly. That allows you to sign up and get involved. And like I said, I'm in those meetings. Peter's in those meetings. There's a lot of really active people, I would say, in those policy meetings. So definitely get involved if this policy means a lot to you. And with that, I think we'll wish everybody a happy Friday. Does that sound good, Peter?
Sounds great. Thank you again for having me, Cole. Everybody enjoy their weekend.
Yep. Thanks for coming on, folks. We'll see you on the next one. You take care.